To our presentation on the Moot Court project. Our principal investigators were Nikos Harris, Barbara Wang, and John Festinger from the other School of Law. I acted as project lead this term. My name is Dante Cerrone. Our developer this term is Michelle Huan, and the design team is Olivia Chen, Vita Chen, Veronica Chen. Thank you all for joining us.
Mooting is mandatory for first-year law students and can be a very stressful experience for them. To help with this process, we are trying to create a realistic simulation of the mooting experience to help students better prepare for their moots.
In order to create this tool, we conducted student interviews to better understand how students prepare for the moot and what the actual moot is like. Based on the data we collected, we were able to produce a spectrum of user stories based on the level of preparedness characterized by their comfortability with public speaking and level of stress about the process. These personas helped inform features necessary to make the application more realistic and thus helpful for students.
For the presentation model, we currently have the court scene made in SketchUp. We started off with desks and chairs that differentiate between the different roles in a moot court. Then iterations were made where more components such as walls, doors, windows, and details that made the scene look more familiar and relatable to our users. I exported the models I made in SketchUp as OBJ files. From there, I passed it on to Dante to make sure the models rendered okay in Blender, and then he exported them as GLB files into WebGL. I also designed the interface. So after Vita and Veronica's wireframe model of the user flow, I've taken it to make some designs to polish the interface. The goal of the design is to encourage and entice the first-year law students to use the app for learning or practice. It also needed to follow Adler School of Law branding. Therefore, it is reflected in the color palette that was chosen. The most complicated component that is visible to our users on the interface level is the setup page. It's complicated because every checkbox or inputs present themselves as options to the users, and these options will have to be reflected in the presentation page. And as to how that would work, Dante will explain more about it.
Like a few of our other projects this term, we used React through Fiber to implement our scene where the oral presentation happens. React through Fiber allowed us to quickly mock up our application to get feedback from our PIs, and we were clever enough to make all of these elements independent from each other so they can be worked on in parallel. One of these components was web speech synthesis, which actually has a React through Fiber component published to NPM, which is a package management and distribution tool for Node applications. Besides this example, we made our own component for the judge entity, which is what makes use of the speech synthesis as well as model loading and the logic that we needed for the presentation. Finally, this application is hosted using Amazon S3, since it allows us to quickly iterate and it doesn't need a server running to operate.
So currently we have 3 customization options in Moot Court. So the first one is the ability to swap judge model skins. The second feature is to change the judge's voice. And the third option is to enable subtitles. With the judge model skins, they were created using deep motion, and the animations for walking and turning are also done through deep motion through video clips that can be imported through MP4 files. The toggle menu is collected from a database of voices that were put in through Leva, and the subtitles can be toggled on for visibility.
For the upcoming term, there are several avenues of development that we could take, but some of our top priorities are to improve the speech synthesis used in the application, as well as this will require us to change the hosting solution to require a backend server. Another to-do for us is to connect the interface that we have developed to the components that make up the oral presentation section of the app. And finally, to test what we've been working on with students to see how else the application could improve. Thanks all for coming to our presentation.